The mansion had become famous for all the wrong reasons. Every maid who entered its polished gates walked out within days, some in tears, some trembling, and some refusing to ever work in another wealthy household again. It wasn't because the billionaire family was cruel. It wasn't because the work was impossible. It was because of one lonely little girl whose broken heart had turned into a storm no adult could calm. Then one quiet morning, a middle-aged Filipino woman carrying nothing but an old suitcase and an unshakable smile stepped through the front door. Nobody knew that this fearless woman was about to change not only the child's life, but the entire billionaire family forever. Before we continue, if you believe kindness can heal even the deepest wounds and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share this story with someone who believes in compassion, and subscribe to Spread Kindness for more emotional stories that restore faith in humanity. Nathan Whitmore was one of the richest businessmen in America. His companies built hospitals, technology centers, and skyscrapers around the world. Magazines called him brilliant, investors admired him, and the public believed he had the perfect life. What they never saw was the silence waiting behind the enormous doors of his estate. 5 years earlier, his beloved wife had passed away after a sudden illness, leaving him to raise their only daughter, 12-year-old Charlotte. The loss shattered them both, but while Nathan buried himself in endless meetings and international flights, Charlotte buried herself in anger. Every maid hired to care for her became the target of impossible demands, cruel tricks, and relentless rejection. She pushed everyone away before they could leave her first. The employment agency had almost stopped accepting Nathan's requests because no one wanted the position anymore. Some maids lasted a month, others only a few days. Charlotte hid their belongings, ruined expensive uniforms with paint, ignored every instruction, and filled the mansion with icy silence. Therapists visited. Tutors came and went. Child specialists offered advice. Nothing reached the frightened little girl hiding beneath layers of resentment. When the agency introduced Maria Santos, the manager apologized in advance. Maria was 54 years old, originally from a small fishing village in the Philippines. She had spent decades working honestly in different countries while sending nearly every paycheck home to educate her younger siblings and later her grandchildren. Life had tested her many times. Typhoons had destroyed her childhood home twice. She had survived poverty, illness, heartbreak, and years of exhausting labor. Compared to those struggles, one unhappy child did not frighten her. The mansion staff watched nervously as Maria entered Charlotte's enormous bedroom for the first time. The room looked more like a luxury hotel suite than a child's space, yet it felt strangely empty. Shelves overflowed with toys that had never been played with, designer clothes filled endless closets, and expensive paintings decorated the walls. Yet the air carried loneliness heavier than any furniture inside. Within hours, Charlotte began her usual campaign. She deliberately spilled juice across freshly folded clothes. She scattered books across polished floors moments after Maria organized them. She ignored meals, pretended not to hear instructions, and stared with cold eyes that silently dared the new maid to quit. But Maria never became angry. She quietly cleaned the messes without complaint. When Charlotte destroyed something, Maria calmly repaired it. When Charlotte refused dinner, Maria simply left a warm plate nearby without saying another word. The child grew confused. Every previous maid had eventually shouted, cried, or complained to Nathan. Maria did none of those things. Days turned into weeks. Charlotte escalated her behavior. She secretly released flour into the laundry room, covered hallways with muddy footprints after gardeners cleaned them, and even locked Maria outside during a rainstorm. The security cameras captured everything. Nathan expected another resignation letter. Instead, he found Maria patiently sitting on the front porch after the rain had ended, smiling peacefully while watching birds gather near the garden. Nathan apologized repeatedly. Maria simply told him that hurt children often speak through actions long before they learn to speak through words. Those words echoed inside Nathan's mind for days. One evening, Maria entered Charlotte's room carrying an old wooden box. Inside were faded family photographs from the Philippines. Tiny houses built on stilts stood beside bright blue oceans. Children laughed despite wearing worn-out clothes. Grandparents smiled with wrinkles carved by decades of hard work. Charlotte looked at the photographs with quiet curiosity. Maria gently explained that happiness had never depended on wealth in those pictures. Her family had often struggled to afford food, yet every evening they gathered together, told stories, laughed, and reminded one another they were never alone. Charlotte stared silently at one particular picture showing Maria holding the hand of her young daughter. Then she noticed another photograph years later without the little girl. Maria calmly admitted that illness had taken her daughter many years earlier. Charlotte froze. Until that moment, she believed no one could possibly understand losing someone they loved. Something invisible shifted inside her. Over the following weeks, Charlotte began watching Maria instead of fighting her. She noticed how kindly Maria treated every gardener, chef, and driver. She thanked everyone. She remembered birthdays. She asked about their families. She folded towels with care even when no one was watching. One afternoon Charlotte quietly followed Maria into the mansion's neglected greenhouse. Hidden beneath dusty windows were dying flowers that had once belonged to Charlotte's late mother. Maria had started restoring the garden alone. Without speaking, Charlotte picked up a watering can. That simple moment became the beginning of healing. Every afternoon they worked side by side. New flowers bloomed where weeds once grew. Color slowly returned to the forgotten greenhouse just as hope quietly returned to Charlotte's heart. Nathan began arriving home earlier. Instead of finding another disaster waiting, he discovered laughter drifting through open windows. His daughter smiled for the first time in years while carefully planting roses exactly where her mother once had. The mansion staff could hardly believe the transformation. Charlotte started apologizing to employees she had mistreated. She thanked the cooks. She helped decorate birthday cakes for gardeners. She even organized a surprise appreciation dinner for every staff member who had remained loyal during the difficult years. Nathan watched the celebration with tears he could no longer hide. For years he had tried solving every problem with money, specialists, and expensive solutions. A woman who owned almost nothing had succeeded simply by offering patience, dignity, and unconditional kindness. Months later, Nathan established the Maria Santos Foundation in honor of the woman who had given his daughter a second childhood. The foundation provided education, mental health support, and financial assistance for domestic workers and their families across several countries, including the Philippines. Maria never wanted recognition, but Nathan insisted the world should know that true greatness often wears the simplest clothes. Charlotte also changed in ways nobody expected. Inspired by Maria's resilience, she began volunteering at children's hospitals, reading stories to young patients who felt alone. She carried with her the lesson that pain does not disappear when ignored, it begins to heal when shared with someone brave enough to stay. As years passed, the once feared mansion became known for warmth instead of sorrow. Employees stayed for decades. Holiday celebrations filled every room with laughter. Visitors admired the beautiful greenhouse without realizing it represented something far greater than flowers. It stood as living proof that hearts, like gardens, bloom again when someone refuses to give up on them. Before we reach the ending, tell us in the comments, have you ever met someone whose kindness completely changed your life? Your story might inspire someone else who needs hope today. Nathan often said that his greatest investment had never been one of his billion-dollar companies. It had been believing in one fearless Filipino woman who refused to walk away from a hurting child. Maria never conquered Charlotte through authority or fear. She conquered loneliness with compassion, consistency, and quiet courage. In a world where many people leave when life becomes difficult, she chose to stay. That decision transformed a broken little girl into a young woman who spent her life spreading kindness to others. If this story touched your heart, reminded you of someone special, or inspired you to believe in the power of compassion, please like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with family and friends, and subscribe to spread kindness so together we can continue sharing stories that make the world a little brighter, one act of kindness at a time.